Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the 67 Hail Hail Reaction Podcast. I am your host, John McGinley. I've taken over from Hamish Carton, who's in the middle there, and Mr. Stevie of Stevie Gigpod fame, as we call him. I'm hosting today because Hamish was actually in Paisley for the match today between Celtic and St Mirren, which Celtic wonderfully won 5-1 thanks to a second half blowaway performance after a bit of a first half nervy shocker, shall we say. Hamish, what was the feeling in the ground there? You know, the kind of comeback win and all the drama of that.
Yeah, it's a funny one because you come away from the game feeling like it was a wonderful afternoon, and it was, but a very convincing victory. It wasn't always like that. You know, I don't think we scored our first goal until maybe 55 minutes, something like that. It was nervy. I don't know about you guys. The red card certainly made me feel a bit better, but I mean, I've got complete faith in this team. That didn't, waver at all. But there was something about just given our record here and given that St Mirren were playing every trick in the book, whether it's throwing the ball away or standing in front of the ball or committing fouls, or their ball boys and ball girls not giving us the ball back. It was kind of a little bit worrying in that first half the way it was panning out, but that second half performance, mate, unbelievable.
Certainly unbelievable. Stevie, how were you feeling during that one in the first half and, at half time, shall we say, before going into the second half?
I think you know how I was feeling, John and Hamish too. We are both in a chat, and I was very vocal about that first half performance. I think we were all screaming out for changes to be made, and at half time, obviously, the manager reacted to that sending off, and I guess we all came away from it at full time. Everyone is crediting the manager. It was how he reacted and how he saw that St Mirren were going to struggle with Leila Bada was just unbelievable. It was just two different halves, really, wasn't it? And in the end, I'm just so happy. I mean, 3 points first and foremost, but it was such a convincing manner in the end. But I mean, I guess when we cover the game, I think when you look at 2 flashpoints, really, the big ones that changed it were the red card, but also the manager throwing on a Bada in that second half, John. It was just an incredible tactic from him.
Yeah, I agree. And, the first half was difficult, obviously. Not only because we went a goal behind early, but I thought St Mirren were doing a pretty good job on us, up until they're sending off, in terms of shutting down our wide areas, or at least nullifying the effect of Jota and Mooy in particular. That's nothing we haven't seen before. I feel like we've seen a decent bit of that in Ange's first season, where we were kind of restricted to crosses and not really finding the opportunities we needed to against teams who are defending deep. So I wasn't worried because I've seen this Ange team overcome that plenty of times before. But at half time, as Stevie alluded to there, I think the need for substitutions was obvious, and I think it was clear that it was probably Daizen Maeda that was going to come off. But for me, at half-time, I wasn't thinking about putting Leila Bada on. I was looking for maybe a bit of physicality in that team, maybe bringing Sead Haksabanovic into the game, maybe bringing, O into the game. And that didn't transpire, and thankfully it didn't, because whatever Ange and the coaching staff saw that Abada was going to give to that game was certainly repaid in the way that, he went about his performance in the second half, because St Mirren couldn't really cope with him. And I think the pace and the trickery of Abada was really what done them in the end. I know we got our goals in different ways and different players contributed, but putting Abada on at half time, I think, really changed the game. And credit to Ange and the staff for spotting that, because clearly they're seeing things that I am, as you would expect, and it was fantastic. Hamish, what were your feelings in the ground? What were the fans around you kind of calling for at that time?
Well, I agree that subs were needed. I think everyone could see that. I tweeted, at the time I would probably have put on another striker, like he did, I think, earlier in the season at Ross County. It was Giacomakis at that stage, but I would have put O on, and just giving St Mirren something else to think about in the box, because I felt like, clearly we were going to have lots of the ball, lots of the territory, but, in the first half, Kyogo barely touched the ball. He probably had 2 or 3 touches in that entire first half. So I felt, adding O into the mix was the way to go. But in terms of the Abada substitution, I remember Ange saying that, Abada's really good when he's got the ball. Maida's really good running into space. And I think you saw that today. Maida wouldn't really have been hugging the touchline, certainly on the right-hand side like Abada did. You could see it, pretty quickly. But I think the other thing, away from the impact Abada had, and Abada was probably man of the match, was what it did to Jota as well, because you moved him onto the opposite side, and Jota had a pretty kind of, I'd say pretty frustrating first half, but the way that guy stood up in the second half, and he was getting stuck in, and he had players, clambering onto him, his neck, his collar and all that, and he was getting a bit of stick for the Celtic support, Jota, as well, in that first half. But, this quiet guy who would be easily led and wouldn't have the fight, apparently, when he signed, stood up in that second half. And, Abada was the star, as I say, but for me, moving Jota to that left-hand side made just as big an impact.
Stevie, I described Jota's performance as perseverance, because he was really trying in that first half, and actually, he was actually getting a lot of the ball. A lot of stuff just wasn't really coming off for him. Our best chance of the first half actually came from Jota bursting into the box and firing a shot at Carson, who saved it. But it was perseverance for me, just that ability to keep digging in and keep trying to do the things that we know he can do, and getting the goal in the end. And basically his opening goal, sets the scene for the victory, and the rest of the goals going in. So it's a perseverance for me. How did you feel about that, Jota, today?
Yeah, again, I would agree with that, John, because it would have been very easy for Jota to put the head down with things not coming off for him, and then the manager subbing him when he wasn't an outlet or anything. But I really felt Jota was one of the few players in the first half that was trying something. I was looking online and social media, and I couldn't understand at half time. I really couldn't. All this screams and cries.
Mate, it was big in the away end as well. There was a lot of groaning. Not just about me, about Jota.
Thanks for letting us know that we live in a bubble, Hamish, and there's a real world outside social media. Cheers for that. But no, I think Dyson got off and Jota was on the left. That's where he is most natural, and that's where I enjoy seeing him the most. But at the same time, you can't exactly drop Dyson because he's been unbelievable recently too. But John, honestly, there's all this talk that it would have been very easy for Jota to put his head down and the manager just to haul him off, but no. I thought Jota really stuck at it, and his first goal as well, I've watched it back a few times. You said perseverance, but it was some wee bit of improvisation, how he managed to get that beyond Carlson, because it just looked so unlikely as well. And I mean, it was a big goal when it changed it, because if we go in, I would say if we go into that, it would have lasted maybe half hour. I mean, we scored before the 60-minute mark, didn't we? I think if we, when we were 1-0 down, 60 minutes and beyond, that gets even tougher, because mentally St Mirren are growing stronger. They've kept us out for that opening period, 45 to 60. That's such a crucial stage if you're wanting to get a result against a Celtic team, and that was the ideal time for us to get that result. And I honestly took it so well, so I don't even know how he managed to prod it by the goalie.
Hamish, I'm hearing some lovely bird song from your area. The birds out in force singing praise of Aaron Mooy. 3
assists, apparently. I saw someone commenting there. I didn't think he had a great first half either, but again, second half was brilliant. I mean, just on that, we can come on to Mooy in a second, but I think for me you talk about two big moments. I suppose bringing Abada on was a big moment, but the red card changed the game, and the first goal changed the game, because we didn't come out in the first half and score within 2 or 3 minutes. It was, 10 minutes, and I know we were pushing and all of that, but getting that first goal, really changed the game, I felt, at that point. And then from there, it was just what was it, John? It was an onslaught. That's what it was. Just quickly, VAR decisions. Give us a verdict, because I've not seen them again. So, St Mirren penalty.
So, it's a penalty by the rules, but it's one of those ones for me where Taylor didn't do anything wrong, but it's still a penalty. Like, it's really harsh in the way that the current rules are. I don't think you could do much about it. If it was me, I wouldn't give a penalty like that, because I just don't think it's fair on the players. But you see them given, and you see them given in Scotland, you see them given in England, you see them given in other leagues. His arm's a little bit out. For me, it was quite similar to the one we didn't get at Tynecastle right at the start of the VAR thing, where his kind of arm's out a little bit and the ball hits his arm. But the ball was actually even closer to Taylor's arm from the little flick. So it was one of those ones I felt was incredibly harsh. Stevie, what did you make of the penalty?
I hope you get medication here, lads, because I'm not going to criticise VAR.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have been livid if that happened at the other end and we didn't get a penalty from it.
Why are they letting the play run for like 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah, I agree with that, Hamish. It was ridiculous.
So that's because the ball didn't go out of play, I think.
But
Essentially, if the
they
ball
don't
remains
have
in
to,
play,
no?
I think essentially when when the ball, if the ball goes out of play, that's when they check it, and I think it hadn't by that point. So they have to
I
go
had a
back.
debate with the guy behind me about this, and he said what you're saying, but I swear I have watched games down in England where the play's been going on and the referee's blowing his whistle and kind of like gone to the monitor or whatever. Because it's like, that was wasted time then. I mean, I just surely we've got a better solution than allowing, because it was about, what, 2.5 minutes, something like that. The play continued. You'd almost forgotten about it.
Yeah, no, I agree, but in the end, I think it was like Stevie says, I think it was a penalty. So,
what about our penalty in the free kick and the red card?
Yeah, red card all day, and probably just about outside the box. Stevie, what did you make of that one?
It's happened to you
again. Sorry, I know, letting the team down here, Hamish, but yeah, definite red card, of course, and the contact was just outside the box. So when I did see it, it was hauled back for a free kick and not a penalty. After seeing it, it was the right call again. I'm away for a lie down. Sees after.
O's penalty.
Yeah, again penalty. Yeah, so all good.
A wonderful team of officials, amazing.
I've never criticised them, Hamish.
So for me, I don't think those there were massive moments in the game. I don't think there were huge errors on the officials' part. So it was just something Celtic had to deal with and overcome. And thankfully, Ange's team have proven they can do that again. Steve, I know you are waxing lyrical about Aaron Mooy, just to go back to him, because of just the way he so casually contributed today. Sauntered off as a substitute. He's away home to clap his dog tonight, and just seems like nothing phases him.
No, after that first half showing as well, I really expected Aaron Mooy to be hauled off. I think, John, me and you called it when we were talking to each other at half time. We were really needing some directness and physicality, and we weren't often submitting that. I thought we were playing into their hands. I wouldn't say we were being bullied, because I think every 50-50 in second ball we were winning it, but it was such a stop-start game, and Aaron Mooy was struggling to get into that game whatsoever there. And then the first one, he just puts on a very dangerous ball, and Jota prods at home, as we talked about. But that set piece, the ball in for the second goal, I think we're going to say it was an Alistair Johnson goal, aren't we? Honestly, it was such an amazing set piece. The delivery of that was just perfect, and it was begging to be put away. And John, you were saying it as well to me, that we've been missing that type of set piece taker in some time.
For years.
And, if Aaron Mooy's not in the park, I don't know if we've got anyone that can deliver it at that stage in the game. At that time, I really don't. It was an amazing ball in, and then he gets one later. I know it was a bit of a simple one, but he just passes to Abada, who scores a cracker. But it was a free kick that just wowed me, John. It was a fantastic ball in.
Hamish, Alistair Johnston has only made 11 appearances for Celtic. It feels like it's his testimonial year. It feels like he's been playing for 10 years. It's great to see him get his first goal. The big reaction from the crowd to his goal as well, and he looked like he was absolutely loving it in front of you lot.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was yet another one who, I thought first half wasn't great. I really thought our right-hand side kind of struggled in that first half. But second half, it was our right-hand side that was kind of the spark for our performance. So he was another one who just really, really came on to a game and was everywhere in that second half. The energy he has, even late on in the game, running up and down that wing. And yeah, gave it a really good celebration. A lot of good celebrations today, actually. O's was a little bit disappointing. I was kind of hoping for a wee dance after seeing that video last week. I know Alistair Johnson was having a bit of banter with O after that as well, so I don't know what that was about. But I don't know if the TV coverage highlighted this in full, but first half St Mirren were trying everything to stop Celtic getting into our flow. I mean, the goalkeeper Trevor Carson was taking an age to take anything. Every single free kick they gave away, a player would kick the ball away. They eventually got one of them got booked for doing the most blatant kicking the ball away in history. But it was so frustrating. And what does it say about this team? They just don't get flustered, John, with things like that. I almost wanted them to be more flustered in the first half and in the referee's face. I know McGregor was doing it a little bit, but I was almost kind of wanting them to be getting a bit annoyed. But they clearly just did their talking on the pitch in the second half.
Ange made an interesting comments about this last week, and kind of after the final, kind of saying that he doesn't want his players to be wound up by the opposition. He doesn't want his players feeling that emotion, because in his viewpoint, what happens when someone isn't winding you up? Can you still get to the same levels that you want to? So you've got to find your motivation from a different source. You can't really buy into what the opposition are doing and bite on it and get up for a game that way. I know a lot of successful players and a lot of successful teams in the past have managed to do that, but I think it's best to stay cool, stay focused on your own things, and find motivation from a different source, because there will be times when teams don't do that, and so you don't want your levels to drop just because it's not as intense or competitive, or they're not doing those little things, which, you know, St Mirren are more than entitled to do. You know, that's just the way they wanted to try and get a result against Celtic, and fair play to them for that. I think another thing we saw from the team from Celtic today, guys, is just the depth on that bench again. I mean, you see it every time the team sheet is named. It's become a bit of a cliche at this point, but you look at that bench and it's ridiculously strong, full of really good players, some of them international players. And again, in the second half, that really made a difference today, I thought. And, you know, 3 of them got on the score sheet, Stevie, and the bench just looks so ready to go. And I think people are actually crying out now for a little bit of rotation in the team midweek. You know, maybe give a couple of these players a start at Celtic Park and see what they can do, because they just seem absolutely desperate to be performing for Celtic.
John, and you know, you also said they're established internationals, but you know, we've got a lot of winners on that bench as well. With Matt O'Reilly there, for example, you know, and Abada, who knows what it takes to win, and he scored very big goals for us, and that's the key to get him on as well, because he's done it in these type of games in the past as well, and he's scored crucial goals. But yeah, in terms of the rotation, that's something I really want to see in midweek. I'd like to see O starting. I'd like to see what Awata can be doing.
His hearts were playing, Stevie.
I know, but it's again, this is, I think, that we have to. You know, it's like going back to what the manager said. The manager said he's not got that preferred first 11. Yes, he's got players that he'd always want to be there in the spine, but I think he has to use his squad properly for this one against Hearts, because this is the start of a really big week for us. It's, you can say, even season defining, because today, dropping points, and as John said on social media, kick-starting a title race, that is unthinkable. It couldn't happen today. And then midweek as well, I know we're playing Hearts and we've got a good record against them at Celtic Park, but I fully expect us to bring in a couple of fresh faces and, you know, have, I don't want to say one eye on Saturday next week, because that's not how the manager thinks. The game in midweek's far more important so far. But I just think we've got a responsibility to keep some of the players fresh, for example, for that game at Tynecastle, and ending the week, if we can win all 3 of them. Massive statement, and it just, you know, this team kick on further for that. If we win all 3 of these games, and also we've won today, if we win the next 2, really fancy this team. I don't want to use that trend talk or anything, but you know where I'm going with it without saying it.
Hamish, the grey strip, is it a legend now?
I imagine we hadn't won that game, it would have been, I'd probably never have worn it again. It was a bit easier to see today, wasn't it? The fact that Mirren were in that second kit. I like the kit as well. I think it looks really nice. I'm just not sure about a record in it, but maybe today's the turning point. In terms of support, I mean, 6 goals in the game. We got to see all 6 in front of us, which was nice. And a wee shout out, actually, name dropping here. Bumped into Matt O'Reilly's mum and dad on the way out. They had a bit of family up watching Matt today, so I think the fact that he scored was a big one for them. And I really think he's coming on to a game at the moment. His dad actually listed a stat. I think this is his dad, so it's probably biased, but he said 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 200 odd minutes on the pitch, which is quite decent. So we need to look that up, guys. But I think Matt O'Reilly's coming on to a game.
Stevie, what do you think about this? Hamish writes a book and now he's name dropping players' families' names and all this sort of nonsense. Shambles.
I really had. If I really said what I want. If I really, my thoughts on Hamish Carton in his book has been made abundantly clear, John.
Okay. We'll just close off with, just as Stevie mentioned, there's a huge week, Hamish. The double header against Hearts. The fact is, a double header, I think, does add to it. It's going to be exciting. It'll be exciting at Celtic Park on Wednesday night. It's another sold out game. I think a lot of people, a lot of games are sold out, and some season ticket holders can't make it. I think it'll be pretty full on Wednesday night, and then there's over 3,000 away supporters going to be at Tynecastle next Saturday lunchtime. It's an absolutely massive week, and as Stevie said, there's a lot on the line, and actually really excited about it.
I think Wednesday night, I mean, if you take that game first, Wednesday night's going to be great. I think you're right. I mean, I think in general our midweek attendances have been good. Even against the likes of Livingston, St Mirren recently, I think it's been good crowds. And given that it's Hearts, the third best team in the country, a bit of rivalry there. Obviously, I think most season ticket holders will have kind of marked that one out as one they want to go to. So I think that's going to be a big game for us. There's a big game in Edinburgh as well that night as well. So. You never know how the league's going to look after that. And then Saturday's going to be very tasty.
Yeah, it's actually Wednesday night is good because, obviously us and Rangers have our own thing going on. I think Hibs are only 5 points behind Hearts. So theoretically, if Hearts get beaten at Celtic Park and Hibs manage to do something against Rangers, they're only a couple of points behind going into the final group of matches. So there's a lot at stake. Stevie, are you confident about these Hearts games? I know you like to be a little bit of a nervous Nelly sometimes, but are you feeling good about this?
Thanks for that, John. Yeah, I'm confident about both games. I think I know the state of mind I was getting into in that final, and my behaviour during that final is hopefully something we'll never talk about ever again at Hampden, just for how I acted. But if there's one thing this team has taught me, it's to have total belief in them. Because again today, could have been ranting at half time, shouting and bawling, saying, "Oh, we've let it slip" and all that. But I think this team were just patient. There was controlled aggression. We didn't go and hunt any long balls and play into their hands. We continued to play our football, and that's why we got the result today. And I have full confidence in the team in the next two games, John. Massive week, but you're not going to see any nervous energy from me here. I'll be very excited. So there we go.
And with that, I'm off to check what Robin Nielsen has been mouthing off about Celtic before this one. But it's good for you to join us, guys. Hamish, thanks for joining us. Stevie, thanks for joining us as always. Hamish, I'm assuming you'll be back on the channel early next week chatting about Celtic, all good things, building up to these games and getting stuck in there. Anything you want to add before we head off?
Just give us your thoughts on the game, everyone who's watching, especially if you're watching afterwards, and I'll work my way through some of the comments tomorrow. Should hopefully have Scott McDonald on this week as well.
And is that the private jet coming to pick you up for your book lunch?
I was going to say that, man.
Can you hear that, eh?
Yes, can hear that. Right, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for joining us live in the chat. Thanks for joining us below the comments. If that's what you like to do, we like to read your comments, so please leave us some. Even if it's about us, unfortunately, we like you to keep it to Celtic. That would be the best thing for everyone. But thanks for joining us. We'll catch you again. It's been another good edition of 6-7 Hail Hail. Goodbye.